Perfect. All right, let's get this started. Hello, everyone. Welcome to what I'm going to call the first episode of the Cartcast. If you guys don't know what that is, that's like an offshoot of our tournament series where we do more podcasts, more round table style things. Today we have Nix right here, who's going to be co-hosting this podcast with me, and our amazing guest at the top right there. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Oh, you're flattering us. I'm Joe. I'm one of the community managers at Capcom USA working on Monster Hunter.
And I'm Jonno. I'm one of the community managers at Capcom Europe that is working on Monster Hunter. So Joe and I are like two peas in a pod.
And then Nix, if you'd like to introduce yourself real quick.
Sure. My name is Nix. I'm a content creator, speedrunner, and streamer, and I mostly do Monster Hunter. I'm happy to be here.
And then you guys already know me. My name is Nightside, aka Phil. I stream a lot of Monster Hunter as well as a bunch of other gacha games. Get mad, get sad, have fun. Welcome to the podcast. So now that we've got the introductions out of the way, let's do something a little bit fun. We'd love to get to know our community managers a little bit more. Let's go ahead and start by asking everyone, what was your first Monster Hunter ever, as well as what are your main two weapons for when you jump into wilds?
You want to kick it off, Jonno?
Yeah, sure. So my very, very first Monster Hunter was actually Monster Hunter 3U. And I got into it because I came across this guy called Gaijin Hunter, who you might be familiar with. And I saw his videos and I was like, wow, this is like a great game. So yeah, I went and picked it up and kind of it all started there. And my first ever weapon I used was actually Switch Axe, but I was really rubbish when I first started playing and I couldn't get used to using like a slower weapon. Yeah. So I switched to Sword and Shield, and that's been my main weapon, my squeeze, since 3U. And going into wilds, I think Sword and Shield and Light Bowgun are going to be my kind of wombo combo to get things started. How about you, Joe?
Fast combo.
Oh yes.
Yeah, my first Monster Hunter was Monster Hunter Tri, and I actually did bounce off of it the first time. Like I tried it, and this is like this is 14 years ago now when that game came out. So I bounced off of it the first time. I'm like, I don't know if this is like really for me. And eventually I gave it another try with. I didn't mean for the pun. I was trying to play I gave it another try with 3 Ultimate, and that was where it really clicked for me. So I think that's like the journey of a lot of people that have played Monster Hunter, and it's kind of like your now when you think about like a lot of games that are in this style, not just hunting games but like action games that like have a lot of like mechanical depth and complexity. I think like those have become so much more like in kind of like the zeitgeist of gaming now, where like things like Elden Ring and like the Soul series and other games like along that line are really like they're kind of like very, very mainstream now. So it's really interesting how like that has like really changed within gaming.
Absolutely.
Oh, and then my 2 weapons. Great Sword is my main, but my second one for wilds, I don't know. It's like it's kind of up for grabs right now. I normally play hammer.
Light Bowgun.
Yeah, I'm hearing all the pitches, I play hammer a decent amount, but I also like gunlance, which I'm eager to learn more about. Switch Axe has been a good go-to in the past, so I don't know. We're gonna have to see.
So for anyone that catches this podcast, you start placing your bets in the chat as to what Joe will be using in the final game. Yeah. Maybe he'll pull a Tsujimoto-san and pull double hammers.
He's a legend for that one. But yeah, send me your PowerPoint presentations. I want to know.
No, but I'm sure we're all gonna have a hard time choosing. It sounds like a very easy question to ask, but choosing the weapons that we want to play on Wilds is gonna be really hard for everyone because so far they all look fantastic. Really, all of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
We wanted to know.
I was gonna say, Nix, did you wanna let everyone know what yours is?
Mine.
I'm kind of curious.
Are you curious now?
I'm very curious.
my two main weapons on Wilds, you mean?
Yeah, 2 main weapons, and then whatever your first Monster Hunter was.
My first Monster Hunter was Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I started on 3DS, guys. It was kind of a challenge because I did not expect to find such a game on such a small console. And I ended up spending most of my afternoons on a little screen like this, trying to progress through the games and farming like really endgame quests for a very long time. So I was very, very happy to play afterwards on the Switch, on the television screen, and then Iceborne as well on a computer screen. So yeah, so far it seems like it has been also a very long time, right? Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, when was it? 10 years ago? Right?
Yeah,
Don't
say
say it was 10
ago.
years ago.
It's- Can you imagine? It's been a decade. When you think about it, it's really crazy. And the 2 weapons that I think I will pick for Wilds, it will definitely be light bowgun and longsword. I think. Yeah.
She's actually a longsword main now.
It's a conspiracy.
She's no longer an LBG main.
Each podcast is gonna say that. It's not true.
It's gonna be the running gag. But
Yeah.
everyone knows that in the community right now. You're basically a longsword main.
A longsword main undercover. I had to put not a longsword main in my Discord description as well, Phil. Do you know that?
Yeah, I noticed.
Longsword denier. Okay.
Longsword denier. Soon to be a longsword enjoyer.
Listen.
I'll say mine really quickly. I actually started with Monster Hunter on the PlayStation 2, but after about like maybe 2 hours of playing the game, I just couldn't get it. I just kept getting bullied by the Velocidrome.
Oh.
Yeah, so I gave up, but I came back into it with Freedom 2. One of my my older brother's friend's husband actually introduced me to the game on the PSP, taught me how to play the game, started with dual blades, and eventually found my home with longsword. And since then I've been playing every Monster Hunter iteration, even Portable 3rd, with the exception of the Frontier series. So and I'll be a longsword bow main when I go into Wilds. So
longsword bow. Wow.
longsword bow.
Sounds cool.
Good choices. Good choices.
Good choice.
Very
Good
flashy.
choice. Yeah. Very fast and very jumpy as well. You'll be able to jump with the bow and as well with the Helmbreaker, man. Like you're gonna be in the air constantly.
All day. It's gonna be
Every time.
aerial dominance is gonna be mine.
We had also something that we wanted to ask before we go further into the podcast, guys. Could you tell us in a few words what exactly does a community manager do? Because it's very obscure for a lot of people. But
Sure.
yeah, could you tell us more?
We just sit around all day and play games, and somehow they give us a paycheck. No, that's not what we do at all. It's probably like,
it's
like
not?
playing games is
How do
probably
we
like
apply?
the least thing that we do.
I was about to say, please sign me up. Hello.
Can we apply?
Yeah, so Jonno and I are both social media and community managers. So at a lot of places you might have like those 2 disciplines split, but we actually do both.
Yeah.
So anything you see that's on our Monster Hunter social accounts, but also not just for Monster Hunter, but like we also have like Capcom regional accounts or other franchises and games that we work on. So we'll basically run all of like the social media marketing, and then on the community side is really handling anything that has to do with community events. So maybe like we'll have streams and things like that, or just managing like things on Discord, or just anything that has to do with like kind of community sentiment. And also just kind of being like the liaison between our teams, not just in Japan, but also like our internal marketing team. So here at Capcom USA and then over at Capcom Europe, we're kind of like the bridge between those teams to show like what's going on with the community, the sentiment. And aside from that, just like kind of being bringing that community perspective to everything that we do holistically at Capcom. So whether that's if we have events that we're going to be at, TwitchCon obviously was one I unfortunately couldn't be at this year, but you had a good chance to see what our community team was doing, pretty much like being out there streaming the game, meeting members of the community, being there at the panels and things like that. And yeah, there's a lot. Sometimes like I think like I said, like some other places will have a lot of disciplines split, but at Capcom we kind of like we tend to wear a lot of hats. But
Mm.
yeah, John, I'll toss it over to you.
Yeah, I mean, Joe did a great summary, and like, on top of that, talking about the social media, we also do a lot of like campaign plans, and we'll be doing these like sometimes months and months in advance, sometimes at a bit shorter notice. So, there's, adding rhyme and reason to a lot of our social posts. Sometimes Joe comes up with a like, all right, banger of a tweet, and he's like, all right, let's do this. And it's like, yeah. But yeah, we're kind of planning ahead. What's going to be good for the community? What should we be sharing about the game? And as Joe said, working closely with the development team, we're very lucky as community managers here to have regular close access to the dev team and working with dev teams that really respect community and the Monster Hunter community, as well as the discipline itself, which allows us to share meaningful sentiment and feedback with the team. They're always keen to be like, what did they think of the latest trailer? What did they think of this? Or, you're talking about Sunbreak, we've just had like a title update. What went down really well? What things did people not necessarily like so much? And things like that. So, Joe and I are always trawling through social media replies. We're there lurking on Reddit and things, gathering this feedback and passing it over to the team. We also work with content creators. We have slightly different setups because obviously North America has Capcom Creators Program, whereas in Europe we don't. So we kind of have the more direct, but Joe gets stuck in with content creators as well. So that's a big part of our role, which is also normally a separate role at other places, but I find it's very rewarding as a community manager that Joe and I get to engage directly with, as you guys know, with content creators who are, a foundational part of a community, especially, because you get variety creators that will play the game at launch and things, which is awesome. But you also got content creators that are always playing Monster Hunter, as you guys know, and, championing the community, being a voice of the community and kind of representing the community to those that don't play Monster Hunter yet. So yeah, there's a lot going on, and as Joe said, many hats being worn. But we're there for the community, to champion the community, and to help grow the community.
That's
impressive in a nutshell.
And I think it can't be said enough, but we really, really do appreciate the work that you guys put between, basically being our voices to the devs. And honestly, it shows in so many levels.
It does.
And we're just so appreciative to you guys for the work that you do.
Thank you. And, Joe and I are both really lucky that, our predecessors, Sox and Yuri, were amazing. And when we joined, they, kind of like All Might, they're like, now it's your turn. And they passed the baton over to us. So, I remember when Yuri was leaving, and I was like, what? Oh no. And he goes, don't worry, we're going to get an awesome replacement for me. And then it's Joe, and couldn't be happier.
No, I'm just okay.
That's okay.
Don't overstate it.
You guys are like literally, like Jonno said, you guys are like two peas in the pod. Whenever I see Jonno, I see Joe. If I see Joe, I see Jonno. If I don't see both of you guys, then it's like, you
then
guys
it's
are probably
like something there's missing. Like what?
Something's wrong. Something's wrong. Actually, that's actually a great segue to my next question. What exactly is the relationship between you and between Joe and Jonno? Like, have you guys known each other before you both landed yourselves as community managers at Capcom, or was it you guys kind of met each other for the first time when you got into Capcom?
Yeah, we met each other for the first time at Capcom, which industry's pretty small, so everybody knows each other. But yeah, we actually did not know each other before that. But we settled right into working well together, like almost immediately. Is just like I've known this guy for like years, and it's kudos to Jonno, who like stays like late nights for most of the time when I'm just starting my day. So I always appreciate that. But we've had a great partnership. I mean, working together, and I think we both love Monster Hunter, and we both love gaming, and I think we're pretty like kind of united in that, in that effort. So we have great friendship and great working relationship. But I mean, Jonno might just say, "No, I hate this guy." So
no, absolutely. It's testament, as Joe said, I stay late to hang out with Joe and talk work and catch up and just chat in general because we get on that well, both friendship and professionally. Like, as I said, like we're both big Monster Hunter nerds. We're both big nerds in general. And yeah, it's awesome. So like it's never a problem staying late because it's like, let's talk Monster Hunter, let's plan ahead, let's do this, because it's the most fun part of the day. You've got these two big Monster Hunter nerds across the ocean that are coming together to do cool stuff with the community. And honestly, yeah, like if Joe's not around, it's like, oh my goodness, feels like half of me's missing kind of thing, you know. And it's nice working with someone where, as well, like our styles overlap really nicely as well. Like we'd never have the, hey, we should do this for like a tweet, and it's like, no, this is definitely better. And you know, you have to coin flip. Like it's really interesting to work with someone so closely where you have similar styles and you can merge things really easily as well. So we're always like, hey, you know, I've cooked this up, what do you think? Or vice versa, and we check it out. And yeah, it's really cooperative, which is really, really nice, and really fun.
Just like Monster Hunter.
I think like
yeah,
in a way.
I think like the thing is like, if you see a social post that goes out from our accounts or anything like that, like the odds that we both had a hand in it are like very common. And that's not always the case, like for everything that like I've worked on in the past or other places I've been where like to have like multiple people that worked on it. Like I think we worked really collaboratively in that way. Like we both of us, you know, we have like checks and balances with each other. We both look at things, we both like, you know, pitch things to each other. Like, what do you think about that? And I think like one thing that has been super important for me coming to Capcom is that I had less of a community background. I had more of like a social media marketing background.
Oh, okay.
You know, at Nintendo, I worked more like very much like campaign based and like on tons of different products. So it's just like you're cycling in and out of products and campaigns. And you know, coming to Capcom, it's like, okay, you're gonna like be working on Monster Hunter for a very long time. Like you're just embedded in it. And the community part of it is like, you know, I've worked a little bit of community in the past, or a decent amount of community, but like to be really like a full on community manager was a little bit somewhat new to me. And I think like working with Jonno has like really challenged me in that way of like, you know, this guy knows what he's doing. Like, so being able to like draw on his knowledge and like for us to work together, I think has really like challenged me to be better. So yeah, it's been a great experience.
I think it's the same. Like, if you see a funny tweet, it's probably his idea. You know, if you see one that actually makes you laugh.
I was literally about to ask, all right, who's got the more banger tweets? Who makes the more funny tweets? Yeah.
Yeah, no, Joe's really quick. Like, he'll be like, "Hey, this is funny. Let's do this," and I'm like, "Yeah, go on."
Sometimes they're not funny though, but you have some really good ones. But sometimes I'll just be like, oh, like I don't know if this is funny,
but I'm still gonna do
it out. Yeah.
Well, it's like your Chatacabra falling backwards with the oof. Like, you know, that was a really good one.
Yeah. So this is the amount of thought that goes into that tweet. I'll give you like behind the scenes. Like scheduling, that's not even that much. It was actually as little as humanly possible. Like I was scheduling content out, and I saw like I had an open day basically, and I'm like, oh, okay, well maybe this is a good time to post this like funny picture of Chatacabra. And then it's like 5 p.m. in the US. I'm just like, you know what? I'm just gonna tweet this like right now. I'm just gonna press like post it. Like why not?
Oh man. Yeah, it seems like you guys really have like a really fun time working what you do as a community managers. Like I know I've had conversations in the past with Jonno, especially because I was pretty interested in getting into community management myself, and it's just awesome to see you guys just like love your work. And you know, I'm so happy to see that you guys just like have such an amazing partnership. Like this is like the dream right now.
Yeah,
like seeing you guys do the things that you do.
Define time zones.
Yeah, you know,
define time zones, literally.
I think it's a credit to kind of Capcom's culture and setup as well. Like, you know, how community management is treated and respected, and how leadership lets us, you know, get on with things, and how once again our predecessors cared about who would be next. They were like, you know, we love Monster Hunter, what's going to be, you know, best for the team and stuff like that. And yeah, so, and also the community, like Joe and I have spoken about this recently as well, about how the community being as they are allows us to be the community managers we are and be more proactive with the community. And it allows the dev team, like, you know, we had like Ryosa-san, Fujioka-san, and Takuda-san at Gamescom, for example. And Joe as well, I think you had Ryosa-san at PAX, right?
Yeah, he was amazing. Like, I think I mentioned this before in other podcasts, but like the travel for him to get to PAX was really challenging, and he was able to make it out. And it was almost like purely a community event. You know, it's like he had the panel, but otherwise he was doing signings and meeting people, and just being able to like see people, I think was super important to him. So I mean, the team really cares about community a lot. Like it's very high value to them. They're you know, I won't like say any specific things, but like there's other places where like I think community, because it is like it's technically like free, I guess. It's like these are the people who are already playing your game. I think sometimes like can be forgotten a little bit, but like the team really understands that community for Monster Hunter is like it's very crucial, very central to the, you know, the health of the series, and also just like, you know, where the team wants to go in the future. So
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Nix, did you want to ask the next question?
Oh, is it my turn already?
Mm-hmm.
So
We'll get to your guys' level soon.
So the next question is but you mentioned earlier PAX and Gamescom, right? We were wondering, because I've seen, we met with Jonno at Gamescom. It was amazing, and Phil was at PAX, right? No, you were not at PAX?
I tried to go to PAX. I couldn't make it happen.
Who was there then? I thought you were there.
Joe was there.
Okay. Well, I was certain that Phil went to PAX. Damn, man. How is it for you to
I was
work
there in
on...
spirit.
In spirit. Me too. Me too. I wish I could have been there. Honestly, the amount of times that I've been messaged to go there, it looked really, really crazy. And also I was, and I think Phil as well, the whole community is super impressed by how well you guys organized everything. And of course you have some you know, a lot of work that you need to pull through to organize such big events. And we were wondering how it is to work in there. How is it to be in the Capcom booths? How is it to set up everything, coordinate everything, gather everyone? Tell us everything.
Shall I start with Gamescom, Joe? And then Gamescom was being planned for months and months, and I have to give full credit to the Capcom Germany team. So we've got Vivian, who's the German Monster Hunter community manager, Lara, who is like the kind of brand German community manager, and Klaas as well, who's PR over there, and kind of like managers, like the community managers over there. They worked their butts off. There were so many plates to spin, so many levers to pull, and they've set up everything. You know, they worked with like agencies and a production company for the streaming and the stage shows. So they did all that hard work so that, you know, I could turn up and, you know, go on stage and do those bits. So massive shout out to our German team. And for those that any German viewers, yep, there is a German community manager for Monster Hunter called Vivian. She's awesome. So hopefully we'll get to see her soon a bit more on camera and stuff. But yeah, it was a privilege, first of all. Talking at a community perspective, you know, the queues were between 6 and 8 hours long.
Yeah.
They were 8 hours long, but we had to cut it down for health and safety. So we weren't clogging up the kind of area. And to see the dedication from the community and new players who had never played Monster Hunter before was incredible. Like, it's truly humbling for everyone involved. We were really well looked after. We had a fantastic production team making loads of stuff, because behind the stage, there was at least like 30 people on this production company running everything. They were incredible. You know, it was awesome. Everyone was just so excited. Like, you know, we had the developers down. They were just having a great time seeing the queues, seeing everyone happy, and seeing them playing the game they've been working on for years and years. And this is the first public hands-on. Being on stage was incredibly fun. You know, it was a bit nerve-wracking on the first day, and then getting consumed by the smoke on stage.
There were a lot of smoke.
There was a lot of smoke, right?
Impressive.
But yeah, it was a ton of fun. You know, meeting people like yourself and, you know, other community evangelists and creators. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a privilege, and seeing all that new information being revealed live straight from the team was a ton of fun. But yeah, the amount of work and time that goes into that was huge, and I was very lucky to just be able to turn up and be like, right, cool, let's do some fun stuff. I don't know, how was PAX for you, Joe?
Yeah, it was maybe not as crazy, but I think similarly as crazy. You know, we had a great turnout at our booth at PAX. It was the first time the game was playable in the US, and we also had the debut of our rideable Seikret, which Phil, I know you had a chance to.
It was amazing.
Take a picture of that. Yeah, so it was great. I mean, I think we were capped at like 4 hours for our line, which again, that was like a health and safety thing. Like, is pretty much capped at pretty much all time. So the demand was incredible to see. Just like so many people who love Monster Hunter, but also just the amount of people who had never played a Monster Hunter game before. There were some people who had just started with World, and then we also had like a ton of like diehard fans who have been around since the beginning. So it was great to see that mix of different players. And yeah, the team worked super hard to put the event together, and it's all part of the Wilds World Tour. We've had Gamescom, and we had PAX, we had TwitchCon, which you were just at, and then TGS is up next, which the scale of it is just like, it's staggering in terms of like how many playable stations are going to have at TGS. So that's pretty impressive as well. But and then the panel at PAX, that was great. Being able to just be up there on stage with Ryoza-san and be able to I guess like break some hearts by revealing Amstrigian is not baby Puke, which hopefully it's still fun for people to see. But it was,
there are some people that are in denial about that still.
Yeah. I am, but it's fine. It will be fine. But I still like the Armstrigians. Is that how they're called? They're very cute.
Yeah.
They're very cute. So yeah. But Puke
sure.
will still forever be in my heart, I think. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was really great. For me, I think PAX was the first time that since working at Capcom, I've had a chance to like really meet a lot of people in the community. Since we haven't really had like a public event that was like focused on our games yet, or at least for Monster Hunter. So it's just really cool to like talk to people who have only seen online or talk to online, meet them in person, and just feel like the energy of the community, which was just like, it was so positive, and like everyone's just so excited coming out of it. It gives us momentum. It gives the team momentum to see that. And this is a long campaign. It's a long game that we're going to be working on for quite a while. So that energy to make it feel real, I think is super important, because if you don't have that, then it's just like you're kind of just working in a vacuum. But then when you actually see people excited about your game coming out of the demo stations and they're just like, that was the best thing ever, that is such a good feeling.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it feels like extremely validating and assuring that like what you're doing is being super appreciated. I mean, I think I speak for a lot of people when I say this, but like so many people, both new players and veterans alike, are so excited for this game. I mean, heck, so many of us at TwitchCon, especially, we're trying to see, hey, did this person cancel? Can we get in? We were so desperate just to try and get more hands-on time with the game, and that's just so how excited that we are.
Matters. Every single second matters.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, and so many of us were trying to like test things, especially for people that have a little bit more of a technical background, or maybe like a speedrunning background. I know like a lot of us were trying to like, all right, we're going to be the ones to beat Rey Dau right now. Right? But then, obviously we'll get into that a little bit later. I don't want to dive too far away from what we have planned here. Oh, man. Very quickly, can we have your thoughts on what you guys feel about the how the series has evolved up until Wilds right now? Because we've obviously have seen dramatic changes, like obviously there are games that come out on like a yearly basis where like some things don't change too much. Usually it's like maybe like a roster change, maybe like a slight graphical change or something like that. But with the Monster Hunter series, there's always usually something different that dramatically changes and shifts the pace or like the theme of the game. Like, what are your thoughts on the evolution of the series as a whole?
Start, John?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think each time I pick up, so to kind of really narrow it down first, each time I pick up the Sword and Shield in a new Monster Hunter game, I'm like, this is the best version of the Sword and Shield ever. This cannot be topped. And each time a new Monster Hunter game comes out, I'm like, this is the best the Sword and Shield has ever been. So like, and I think that philosophy kind of carries over. And I think one way I look at it is I look at the jump from Generations to World, and kind of the impact that had on Monster Hunter. It went from kind of being, kind of a very Japan-focused game with like a diehard audience that's quite niche outside of that, to this kind of more global game that's recognized in the West and other regions. And I remember the first time I got my hands on Wilds, and even though it's a super early build, and I was like, this gives me the same feelings that I got when I first played World, coming from Generations in regards to this jump feels incredible, even though it's a different kind of jump. And I think for us, before I hand over to Joe, for me, it's like the seamless gameplay is that next jump. I don't know. How about you, Joe?
Yeah, I think the important thing with Monster Hunter, everybody jokes online that's like, oh, this series has only had bangers. Like every single game is good. So like no matter what you guys do, like we're there day one, which is like, I mean, it's great to hear, obviously. But I think a big reason why that is because the series like core DNA is very, very strong. And I think that's what makes Monster Hunter. It's hard for like other things to come in and be like the next Monster Hunter because it's not easily like replicable. Like the way the weapons feel, like the balance between the complexity and also like the like how easy it is to pick each one up. And then the monsters themselves are very iconic. The roster is like huge at this point. There's so many great monsters and different variants and things like that. So I think the how strong that core DNA is allows the team to really evolve the series in different ways. So, like John was talking about with the jump to world and like really just driving like the visual fidelity forward with world, and then also what they're able to do with the weapons and the environments, and now going into before that going into Rise and like how the team was able to experiment with like different combat styles, and now with Wilds where we're also again pushing the boundaries technically of what can we do from the seamless world standpoint of like making sure like the amount of times that you're taken out of the hunt is a lot lower, and also the scale of the world is just so much bigger. So I mean I just imagine it's like if you've been around from the very beginning to see like what the series has become is like it's pretty crazy, like in terms of just the technical scale, but also how many people are playing it now is incredible. Like this is a series where people are like screaming at other people to just like please play it, please, it's my favorite franchise, you don't understand. And now it's we're like the third top wish listed game on Steam, and like we don't even have a pre-order or release date yet. Like that's awesome to see. So we love to see it, like the excitement. It's again, it is a pleasure to work on a series that like this many people love. So yeah, it's amazing.
It almost gives you vertigo at that point, honestly. If you have been here from the start, can you just for 2 seconds imagine someone who has been playing Monster Hunter since Monster Hunter 1, like the first Monster Hunter, and who gets to know about Wilds? Like it's day and night. It's really crazy. I don't know, Phil, what you think about it, but if ourselves were looking at the evolution of the franchise as players, it's also day and night for us for all the reasons that were mentioned before. It's it's really insane.
It still shocks me that the game is just no longer a niche game too, because like we've always kind of known Monster Hunter to be extremely niche. Like literally almost no one in the States knew about it, whereas in Japan it was just like the thing. I remember going to university in Japan for as an exchange student and just seeing like a couple like hugging each other on the train while also playing on their 3DSs for you. I was like, man, that's couples goals right there.
Yeah.
You would never see that in like America, you know what I mean? Like maybe there would be like a small group of people at like GameStop or like McDonald's or something like that. They just like roll up and like play the game, but now it's just everyone's on it. So it's just amazing time to be alive, especially as a Monster Hunter fan.
No, for me, the biggest shock was when some of my best friends who play video games, who never heard about I was telling them that I was playing Monster Hunter, but they forgot about it very quickly. And when Monster Hunter World Iceborne was released, they actually asked me about it. I was like, what do you mean? I'm not on my own anymore. Like my friends know Monster Hunter now. Like it was really a game changer, really, really game changer. And thinking of this, we mentioned earlier that at Gamescom or at PAX you had to cut the line because of health and safety reasons, that you're noticing that a lot of new players were there. I know that Jonno, for instance, during Gamescom you had the possibility maybe sometimes to talk to new people, to new players that were playing, giving them advices and maybe guiding them through. But for all the people, Joe and Jonno, who were not there during PAX or Gamescom, they never heard about Monster Hunter. Could you just describe it to them and maybe give some very general advices on how to get onto the series?
John, why don't you start?
Yeah, so I mean, how to describe it in a kind of simple way? So Monster Hunter is a action RPG where kind of every mission or quest you go out on, to kind of break it down, is like a boss fight. And you fight the monster, you get some items or gear from it, or carbs and things, and then you use that to make better weapons and armor to fight more monsters, and you go up the kind of tree doing that. So if you're someone that enjoys, fine-tuning your character, mastering like skills and making better gear and all about the loot, then you're in for a treat. Monster Hunter doesn't have classes like other games. So say if you're like a Destiny player, you'll be familiar with Hunter, Titan, Warlock. Monster Hunter has weapons, and bear with me, but it's the same thing. When you pick a weapon that you really want to focus on, or you can play loads, that is effectively kind of your class. And hunters kind of base their identity around the weapons they spend the most time with. And each weapon feels like playing an entirely different game. And that's kind of in a nutshell, talking at it from like a action RPG side. So I'll shuffle it over to Joe now.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up best, but I think like at its core, it's fighting extremely cool monsters of all like shapes and sizes, and getting to use like the coolest weapons that you can think of, like a lance with a gun attached to it, I guess, that explodes. And like I think that's at the heart of Monster Hunter, like mechanically it is that. But then on top of that, it's like the way like you can kind of express yourself as a player, like from your armor and your customization to the way you play, because the weapons themselves have so much mechanical depth, but they all are also extremely fun to learn and to use, and then it becomes your personality, which we've seen a lot. Like a lot of people, they pick a main, and then you are now that main. Like that's you. Your greatsword. You become a greatsword main.
Actually, I have a spontaneous question for you now, Joe. If you allow me, guys, are we gonna get like an official personality test based on your weapon from Capcom for Wilds? Can we expect that?
Maybe that could be something. Who knows?
Like you could, I don't know, like something like, okay, we have a list of questions, and then based on what we answered, the website just gives us a weapon, and then you also could put it reverse, like a dictionary of what your weapon says about you. I'm sure a lot of people would be very happy to see that.
I think we may have done something like that. Well, so here's another thing that in Wilds, actually, something that's like pretty easy, or to help new players kind of like pick a weapon, is that Alma, who's your handler, will actually ask you like, what kind of player are you, or like, do you like to like hit the monster and like big numbers come out? I this is a specific set of questions, but yeah, she'll help you kind of like determine what weapon you should try out if it's your first time playing. So that's kind of like along the same lines, but in terms of the personality test, I think that's something we may have done in the past, and maybe it'll come back. We'll see.
Oh.
Yeah, but you raised a good point as well, Joe. Like, Monster Hunter at its heart is a cooperative game. There's no player versus player. It's, whether you want to take it as a solo experience, perfect for solo gamers because the game scales based upon your hunting party size, or if you're someone that wants to play with your buddies or randoms, you can. It's an entirely cooperative experience. You're not competing against other players. You share your loot, and you have your own instanced like loot from the monsters as well, which will be different to your teammates. So if you're someone that just wants a fun experience where you're all working towards the same goal, or on your own with your little Palico buddy, and in Wilds, obviously your support hunters, that experience is there. Because I know a lot of gamers, I'm both. I like PvE, I like PvP, but Monster Hunter is that PvE cooperative / solo experience as well. And yeah, you're never competing against another player. So it's like you win together.
Speedrunners would like to have a word with you, Jonno.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Apart from speedrunners, they compete with each other. But
even people who are not speedrunners, you have some charge blade players who feel that they are competing against other hunters in their party because they just make them fly in the air. You can have sometimes PvE, The amount of times I've been thrown in the air into a fatalis like fire explosion or something. It looked like PvP.
I mean, I know it's nice. He's got a grin on his face because he's a longsword main, right? So he'd know all about. Oh, the head, that's mine. Yeah.
That's my God-given right, not the tail. Just to follow up, actually, because you know, obviously Joe was mentioning that with Alma, she'll teach the players, or kind of not teach them, but ask them, you know, what kind of play style you enjoy and stuff like that. Are there any other features in Wilds that are being introduced that'll try and basically help, you know, ease newer players, inexperienced players into the Monster Hunting experience?
I think the biggest one is the NPC support hunters, which is essentially like the follower system from Sunbreak.
Yeah.
And what I love most about it is, you know, if say you're more of a solo player, like maybe you played like mostly action RPGs that are more story based, like something like The Witcher, something like that, or Horizon, and you're looking for more of like an, you know, you're trying to get into the game, but maybe like you're still learning the mechanics, or you know, you want to hunt in a group but don't necessarily want to play with a bunch of other people online. It's a great way to, like, I wouldn't call it an aid. It's more of like you can have that like kind of multiplayer experience while still playing alone. And you know, the party members that do join you are like pretty well balanced. So like you'll have a good I think you'll have Olivia in there who has the hammer. I think there's another character that has a gun lance, and somebody else with a heavy bow gun, which based on whatever you're maining, I think is a good balance between weapons. And you know, I think it's a great way to kind of like learn the monsters, learn the hunt without all that pressure of like it being 100% on you. But at the same time, they also won't just like completely hunt the monster for you and make it just like a cakewalk. So
Yeah.
it's a good way to kind of like learn the game a little bit.
Actually, on that note, when the NPCs join us, will there be any adjustments to like the scaling? Kind of like how like when we're playing, you know, Monster Hunter World or Rise, you know, when we have, well, would there be like 2-player scaling, 3-player, 4-player scaling, or will the NPCs just not affect that whatsoever?
I think we'll have to take that back, but I'm pretty sure that it does scale as if there are more players, because um, the way it works is kind of like, if say you're like in a multiplayer hunt, right? And you're waiting for people to join, it'll actually like backfill it with the NPC support hunters
Oh,
if you
okay.
haven't completely filled. So say like one person joins, but then you have 2 slots open, it'll backfill those 2 slots with the NPC support hunters. And you can
Oh.
actually choose to not do that if you prefer not to. So that's also part of it as well.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like how in like Monster Hunter Worlds, if you were playing with just only one other person, you both have your palicos, but once a third and fourth person joins, then they just kind of slot out.
Yeah, yeah, and you can, I believe you can set it to, so like if you just want to cap it at 2, like your party says it 2, and you don't want NPC support hunters to join, you can do that too. But yeah, double check me if I'm wrong on that, Jonno.
Yeah, no, I'm not too sure. I've not dug into that myself, and I am someone that likes, like, I was a huge fan of the follower system in Sunbreak. I loved it, especially because when I'm commuting, I can't play online. So it was a fantastic addition, because I got that multiplayer feeling playing solo. But no, I've not actually kind of dug into that. I've just been like, oh, cool, I've got AI backup now, and kind of how smart they are as well. So the team were very keen to have this AI that were never a hindrance. So if you put down a trap, they will know that there's a trap down, and they will go behind the trap if you're there to help lure the monster in. And if the monster's asleep, they won't intentionally like wake it up and things like that.
They won't grief you.
Support the player. Yeah. So the AI will see what the player's doing and adapt to that and support your play style. They won't kind of be like, no, you've summoned us, you know, get in the van. We're in charge now. So yeah, I think it's a really nice touch, because, you know, welcoming new players as well and onboarding them is, you know, a big part of the game, because with Wild, story is a huge focus as well. Do you want to talk about that a bit, Joe?
Yeah, you know, the team is really, I think something that's super important is having a story campaign. This not necessarily means that it's going to take away from the rest of the game, the like existing Monster Hunter experience and that loop, but having like a story campaign that takes you from start to finish in a satisfying way that people want to see the end of. Because, you know, I think we all know like the heart of the Monster Hunter loop is like kind of at that end game, right? Once you've taken care of whatever the main thread is in the story, and now you're kind of like at that end game, and now you're constantly grinding for new gear or just trying to optimize your build. To get there though, I mean, you do want to have like a great story that takes you there, so that you don't like make it halfway and you're just like, oh man, maybe this is not for me, or like you just stall out. So I think the team has really focused on making something that's really compelling. I think in terms of like like the way the quests work and the story works, there is like a significant step up in terms of like how the cutscenes are laid out and like some of the set pieces and things like that. So yeah, I'm super excited to see people like kind of dive into that a little bit more and see how kind of like the story plays out. And again, it's not like it's taking away from that existing experience. It's basically, you know, making sure that the story campaign itself is very, very compelling.
I have a question about the story because we all know there is a running gag in the community that, you know, the story in Monster Hunter, it has never been something that was very strong. But with Wilds, I don't know if you guys noticed, but a lot of people got hyped about the story because we think there are rumors that the story on Wilds is going to be the sequel, or at least a sort of sequel, to Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Is it true? Can we ask questions about that? Do you have any info? Because some people were analyzing the trailers, seeing some resemblance between characters on Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate and Wilds. Could you say something about that, or is it top secret?
So obviously, sorry. I think we're going to say basically, yeah, we can't talk about story at all. Obviously, you know, there's this grand adventure that the team have crafted, and it's important that players get to experience that. But yeah, obviously, yeah, we can't talk about it and things like that. But you know, what we do love is the speculation. The team love the speculation as well. They love reading what do people think. You know, what do they think at face value? What do are they kind of draw like Charlie Kelly meme with the red lines and everything? You know,
Twitter went crazy.
And, you know,
Twitter went crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, we love all that. But you know, whether you're an existing Monster Hunter fan or, as Joe said, you know, you're new to the series, the team have really cooked to create this experience that you're gonna want to play from start to finish and give you a really satisfying payoff. So you know, like people like you know, if you've enjoyed God of War or, you know, Horizon, and you've kind of looked over at Monster Hunter and been like, is that for me? You know, is it? And it's like Wilds, we can be like, yeah, come check it out. You know, if you're into story, we've got some awesome gameplay as well. Like, come check it out.
We're here.
I know there might be some people out there who hear that and they're like, oh man, like Monster Hunter is just becoming like cinematic, whatever, you know, that's taking away from like what Monster Hunter is. And I wouldn't look at it in that way at all. I think it is upping the quality and like the quality of the storytelling and like the quest design also for the stories in a way that really makes it a more like kind of cohesive experience, not just for, you know, being able to hunt in an open area, but also now for having these main story quests that are really, really interesting and compelling.
Not to mention that especially with Wild, it seems like our hunters will be at the forefront of the story, and especially since we actually seem to have voiced lines, I think that'll definitely dramatically improve not improve, but increase the immersion that we as players feel as we go through the stories, because it's really cool to see us do a lot of these cool things in like World and in Rise, but being able to actually talk and go beyond just, you know, I hope you have insurance or something like that, you know. It seems really, really cool.
Yeah, I think that's another big part of it too. So it's a good shout out. But yeah, aside from just like those kind of like lines that you do have while you're hunting, I think the thing that people might have forgotten is that the voice will also come through in the cutscenes. And I think like the goal is really to, you know, as again, like we're trying to make a story that is really cohesive and compelling. Having your hunter be like a little bit more of a heroic figure who's not just like, oh, I'm just along for the ride. Like, no, you are like a central figure in this. And yeah, I'm excited to see people like really get into that and see a little bit more of that.
Two really quick notes in terms of the scenes, because I know this is something that kind of bothered people in specifically in like World, but you know how in order to progress the main story and whatnot, players would have to see the cutscenes from their own side before in the hunt. So if you had, let's say for example, an urgent quest, you had to get in, there would be a mandatory cutscene that plays, but unless the other three have already seen the cutscene, or sorry, actually, until that person has seen the cutscene, no one else can join the multiplayer instance. Are we going to have to do the same thing going into Wilds, or do you think it's going to be a little bit more seamless in that regard?
So this is a good question. One we can kind of talk about a bit, but not go into too much detail on, because it's not been, you know, spoken about too much from the team. but a big focus on Wilds is seamless gameplay. And we know obviously multiplayer falls into that, and obviously the team are very aware of the feedback from Wild and Iceborne and what players would like in multiplayer. So whilst we can't, I think, definitively kind of go into detail, the team, are like seamless gameplay, playing with your friends is important to people, and as there's a lot of time to go, it's great. As and when, I'm sure some more information will drop about those who are interested in how multiplayer will kind of play out in Monster Hunter Wilds, especially related to kind of like the story progression. I think that's right, Joe, unless I've missed something.
No, you covered it well.
And the follow-up questions, I guess the follow-up question wouldn't really apply anymore, but I'm assuming that you guys can't answer whether or not we'll see scene skipping. This is primarily for all the speedrunners out there that are a little curious, especially for those trying to save time.
Yeah, I don't think we can comment on that.
Okay.
Because I'm not sure.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, I figured as much. Now, in terms of the gameplay, we know that the seasons are going to be playing a pretty big part of that. I forgot what the I believe it was the fallow season and the inclemency period, right? Or plenty?
Yep.
Was that?
Those are the
Yeah,
three.
so yeah.
Those are the three. Okay. Oh God, I actually remembered it. Right. So in terms of the seasons, I know that there's supposed to be like differences in like how the environment kind of interacts with the player, but just how much do the seasons actually tie in to the difficulty of the monsters? Is there anything that you can kind of teach us about that in that regard?
Yeah, it greatly affects the monster behavior, what monsters will appear during different periods, and then also I think that something that's really important with the game is having really dynamic feeling hunts. So having a world that feels really alive, where unexpected things might happen in the middle of a hunt. So in the fallow period, that's where monsters are like really, really desperate, and they're really they'll travel in packs, and they become a little bit more aggressive. The inclemency, it's going to be different for every area, but in terms of the Windward Plains, you might have some of those like sand pits where the Balahara are like kind of like swirling around in, and monsters can like become trapped in that, and so can the hunter too. And that's also when Rey Dau appears. So you might just see it flying around. It might attack the Doshikuma that you're hunting. I'm sure you've seen that already in the demo. So and then the plenty is where things become a little bit more bright and vibrant, and so there's more endemic life that's around. There's some traps that were not available in some of the other periods too, so, or environmental traps. So there's definitely going to be like a lot of different things between each season. And then again, we've mostly only shown the Windward Plains and how the seasons kind of play in that. So imagine that kind of like stretched out to multiple areas into a full game, and how like things can be a little bit more unique in different areas. It's really going to affect like kind of how those hunts play out, and also what kind of monsters appear too.
Actually, on the note of seamless gameplay, will the maps and locales be connected in any way or form? Like kind of like how we had the most recent locale kind of touched up on. Will that be connected to the other map as well, or will kind of still be like a little instance?
Let's take this, Jonno.
Yeah, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if we've delved too much into this yet, other than some flavor text. But seamless gameplay is the word to focus on, and as we kind of take more steps forward, we can extrapolate on what that means and how that will kind of impact gameplay as you progress through the game. Unless I think that's right, Joe.
Yeah, I think so. And you can imagine how like, so the two areas we've shown so far, the Scarlet Forest and the Windward Plains, you can kind of imagine how they might be connected. For now, I don't think we can say too much on like how you might travel from one to another, but yeah, stay tuned on some details on that.
We're still starved for information. I'm looking forward to it so much right now.
Yeah.
No, it's good though. It's great how like yourselves and the community are excited. Like, we love the questions. Even if we can't necessarily answer right now, we appreciate the hell out of them.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. So I guess another big change or a new mechanical change being introduced to Monster Hunter Wilds is of course the focus mode.
Yeah.
can you guys talk a little bit about what focus mode is for those, especially for the people that are tuning in for the first time? They might not know what that is for Monster Hunter Wilds. And was there any like specific inspiration as to, you know, why or how the developers came across the introduction of focus mode?
You want to start that, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, so kind of to speak about focus mode as a bubble, and yeah, Joe's probably, I sound like a broken record to him because of how I describe it, because I love focus mode, first of all. To me, it's this great tool that benefits new players and benefits experienced players. So on the so basically in a nutshell, focus mode is a tool that, you know, holding left trigger allows you to quickly go into a mode, which in a nutshell allows you to aim your weapon more precisely, in a nutshell. And also do something called a focus strike, where when you've wounded the monster, you can do a really flashy attack for big damage, which is super, super cool. Now, for new players, obviously, this is fantastic because it helps you land more hits, because in an instant, you can go into this mode and aim slower moving weapons and things like that to get your hits. So I think it's going to help players get into the game more that haven't played before and try out some of the more, some maybe arguably challenging weapons to first get, like charge blade, great sword, and things like that, where you might miss and feel more punished for doing so. On the other end of the spectrum, I think it can increase the skill ceiling for players, because if you choose to kind of use this more, you can fine tune your movement. You can do some real cool, like, you know, as Joe will say, like, you know, with the great sword, you can really change your, like, where you're charging, where you're going to go. With the sword and shield, you can aim a bit higher and things like that, get areas that are normally a bit trickier to land. Obviously, how you use your focus strikes, when you choose to use your focus strikes, which member of your hunting party is the best person to do a certain focus strike with their weapon. I think it's a really fun tool that if you choose to use it, will be great for new players, and it's a ton of fun for experienced players. And because I know as well, when we first revealed it and there wasn't a lot of information around, there was some concern that this is some sort of like easy mode or a crutch, and it's really not. Much like Wirefall, it can be equally helpful as it is punishing if you don't use it in the right situation or you use it too much. So I love it. I think it's a great addition. Talking of someone who's a bit more experienced, obviously, I love that what it enables me to do with the sword and shield and the other weapons with the focus strikes and aiming my hits more. And I'm really excited for new players to come in and be able to tackle more intimidating weapons traditionally a bit easier.
Yeah. I think like the way I would look at it is it's another way, at least for, you know, aside of new players, but for more experienced players, it's another method of skill expression. You'll be able to kind of like reposition your attacks a little bit to be a little bit more precise. It doesn't mean that you won't miss a true charge slash. I think that will still happen for everybody, but it does give you a little bit more versatility in being able to aim those attacks, to be able to turn and feel like you have a little bit more mobility. I think something that is really interesting is the kind of like the new loop when it comes to wounding a monster. So when you do enter focus mode, you'll see those like kind of red highlights where a monster might be wounded, and then you'll be able to press R1 to use that focus strike. It is so satisfying to do that. Like seeing like that like wound destroyed notification, you do like a really flashy move, and some of them have like really flashy moves. I love the dual blades focus strike, which is, it's like, yeah, it's so cool. So yeah, I think again, it's another way to really express like that feeling of hunting, like you're targeting the monster. And for experienced players, I think they're going to do some really cool stuff with it. I think everybody's still kind of like, you know, not everybody's had like that much time with the game yet, so everyone's still kind of like wrapping their heads around it. I think one thing I saw at PAX was like a lot of the players were not necessarily using focus mode that much, so I would come over and be like, hey, don't forget, like, you have this. And you know, once they get into the groove of it, it starts to become more and more natural. So I think over time it's going to be interesting to see people like really incorporate that as part of their traditional Monster Hunter play style. And I think they're going to do some pretty cool stuff with it.
Actually, on that note, and then I don't know how much experience that you've had with this, Nyx, during your time playing the build.
Yeah.
But I've noticed that there are some things that get affected while you're actually attacking in focus mode. Obviously, you said earlier that you can, you know, aim the TCSs for greatsword and whatnot. But I noticed for insect glaive, I don't know if I'm talking out of my mind or anything like that, or but when I was playing it very recently at TwitchCon, I was messing around with insect glaive, and I noticed that when I hold focus mode and actually start attacking, my Kinsec was also kind of like flying around the same time where I was attacking as well. And it looks like it was also grabbing extracts. Was that right? I don't know if you two are familiar with the insect glaive in Wilds, but
I don't have too much experience of the insect glaive, but John, I think are you a little more, or I'm not sure?
No, I've been playing Insect Glaive on my Rise home console, but I do not have the experience to. Yeah, and I've not used it in Wilds because basically, like Joe and I, for example, have been doing a lot of like demonstrations and stuff like that. So we've been focusing on the weapons that we're familiar with, so that we can do the community justice when we're like demonstrating the game. So I've not kind of strayed too far from my comfort weapons yet. But yeah, some weapons do behave differently in focus mode as well, but I can't say definitively. So you might be right, but I don't know. I need to have more time with the insect glaive. Or insect glaive even.
I'm gonna have to go double check the VOD now.
Yeah. For me, I did not play insect glaive at all, but so I tried focus mode at Gamescom with longsword and light bowgun. So for a lot of ranged users, I think when focus mode was announced, we were like, you're helping us to aim, but isn't that something that as gunners already like are supposed to do? So of course myself, I was no, but you know what I mean. It felt like they're giving us like an aimbot. We don't need that. What do you mean? But in the end, I had to. Of course, I tried it. And then I understood, and it's true that the feeling was, I can understand how stimulating it can be for someone who, let's say, never touched guns in their lives. And because you do have a help for you to aim, not only that, but also the damages that come out of it. Can we just please talk about them? It's absolutely insane. It does amazing explosions, and I'm sure that a lot of people will maybe find bowguns attractive thanks to focus mode. If that's the goal, I think it's gonna work. And for longsword, however, I was a bit puzzled because so I don't know if it was because of the build, because of course I'm aware that we were playing under special circumstances, that it's the first playable version of the game, etc., etc. But it felt for me and for a friend of mine that with longsword you kind of are, if you're not using focus mode, it's going to be maybe a bit hard to position yourself. And we were wondering if focus mode in the case of longsword, let's say if you want to orient your spirit combo or reposition yourself, when you're not using it, it seems harder, but for unnecessary reasons. And the question that I have is focus mode only making the gameplay smooth, or did basically the developers made the feeling a bit more rough if you're not using it? I don't know if my question makes sense, because I don't know, like.
No, I get you. Are you saying is the gameplay built around focus mode, or is focus mode in addition to the gameplay?
Thank you.
I would say it's in addition to the gameplay. So, for example, like going back to my weapon, the sword and shield, before I even touch focus mode, I noticed how much more fluid it feels again now. So, for example, with the sword and shield, you can sidestep mid-combo attacks. So you can hit and you're weaving around while you're hitting the monster. And then I would use focus mode purely to re-aim what I'm doing. So weapons, the gameplay hasn't been fundamentally altered to be like, oh, we got this new feature, you're using it kind of thing. It's... but weapons might feel a bit different anyway, because obviously this is a whole new game with a whole new setup and monsters and everything like that. But no, for Sword and Shield, it feels incredible. It's like silky like butter. I was stepping around, getting smacked by Doshiguma, getting up, stepping around again. But no, like it might just be, once again, getting familiar with how the weapons play in the game now. I mean, Gun Lance is another example, and Hunting Horn of two melee-based weapons that have undergone changes again to how they play and how they feel. I mean, I don't know, Joe, feel free to jump in, but it might just be like a teething period, especially if you're used to, and if you're a speedrunner and you've been playing like Iceborne, Sunbreak, whatever, you'll know those weapons and how they feel like the back of your hand in that game. So it might just be kind of that muscle memory.
Absolutely. That's also what I thought, but I needed to ask the question.
Yeah. I don't know if we can like really talk about like what the developer's intent was with like specific balancing and things like that, but at least for now, I think there is a lot of like still getting used to a new game. Again, it is new, like so not everything is going to be like one-to-one just because it was the same in the previous game. It'll be like the exact same in this game. So I'm not a longsword main, so I can't like necessarily talk about like the exact specifics, but
Can I talk to you about this awesome weapon called the longsword, Joe?
Oh my
I think
god.
you'd love it.
Don't listen. If you play it once, then it's over. I mean, look at me. I was ranged main, and now they make me play melee every time. Like, be careful. It's longsword is really addictive. For real.
Oh boy.
Actually, I think it's to Jonno's point about the gameplay being focusing on being an additive function. I actually have to say that's actually very true because I never once felt like I had to use it. I'm pretty sure that a lot of people are gonna have a little bit of a difficulty kind of wrapping behind it, but I think that Capcom definitely learned about making something feel like you kind of have to use it, kind of like how in like Iceborne it was almost mandatory to use the tenderizing or wounding like the monsters and stuff like that with the clutch claw. Like it technically you didn't have to do it, but if you didn't do it, it was one of those things where it's like that it significantly increased the amount of time that you would be spending in the hunts. Whereas with focus mode, it's mostly it's there, it can help you, but you don't have to use it. And I noticed that like the wounds, you can still attack it even without the focus attacks, right? And then you can either like pop it like right there with the focus attack or just damage over time, and it just kind of pops eventually, right?
Yeah, kind of like what Joe mentioned earlier, like the combat and the gameplay is much more, organic and dynamic. So to make the wounds, you just have to attack an area enough and it will happen. You don't have to do any special moves or anything. And if you can actually see the wounds without being in focus mode. Focus mode highlights them, but if you're paying close attention or you're close enough, you will see the physical wound on the monster and you'll notice that your hit reticule will change when you're hitting it. And you can break wounds by just damaging them enough rather than using a focus strike. But yeah, so a much more organic approach to the kind of tenderized system and then how you choose to approach it as well. So yeah, the tools are there if you want to use them, but if not, there is that kind of organic gameplay for the traditionalist kind of hunter amongst you.
Speaking of wounds, a very quick question out of my head. Do you know if wounds can be proc'd more than once? Like the same wounds during the same hunt? Or in the same, is that something
I don't think
know?
so. I think Doshiguma may be the only one, because it has like that kind of like enraged state where all of its wounds open back up. But after a wound has like kind of been broken, it scars back over.
Okay.
So yeah, you might see like one that's like in a similar like area, like very close. So it could seem like there's more than one, but I think generally once a part is like broken or a wound is destroyed, then it might not open back up.
Okay. Interesting.
So basically, we can't use and abuse the wounds on a monster. We can't keep wounding the same part. Minus the Doshiguma.
Make it count. Yeah, make it count, basically.
Perfect. In terms, I'm not quite sure if this is a question that you can fully answer, but we're very curious as to what are some of the biggest challenges that Capcom is tackling with Monster Hunter Wilds in terms of like, I mean, anything in general, maybe like weapon balancing, or if there's any particular parts of like community feedback that you've received that that Capcom is actively trying to tackle with Monster Hunter Wilds.
I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Start off. You first, Joe. You first.
No, I'm good.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't say challenge, but I think one thing the team were really keen to do and achieve was crossplay. And I think Wilds obviously is the first Monster Hunter title ever to have cross-platform play, and I think that was a challenge to do, I imagine. But I think that's some feedback, obviously, they'd seen from, Wild, Iceborne, Rise, Sunbreak, and to now see that come to realization is incredibly exciting. I don't know all the wizardry that goes behind it, but I'm incredibly excited to see the fruits of the team's labor on that one. And I think, that was a really interesting challenge. And I know before we revealed it, obviously, Joe and I knew it was coming. And we could see the community like, give us crossplay, please. We want crossplay. And, us, they're like, hold on a little bit longer, gang, So that was an interesting one. But I think, the fact that teams saw that and they were like, right, we need to do this for Wilds, and they have. So I'm really, really excited to see the community get on that because, no matter where you play Wilds, you'll be able to play with your buds, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, it's especially awesome for us content creators because I'm sure Nix can agree when I say this, but it's so difficult to see people come into our streams and our chats like, hey, do you play on Xbox? Do you play on PlayStation? It's like, no, I'm on Steam right now.
And they're like, I really need the help on this monster, And I'm like, yeah, hop in. And like, but you're on PC, I'm on console, and it's heartbreaking every time because you're like, yeah, you can just come here, we're gonna help you, and so no. So this solves the issue now.
Also a little bit easier on our wallets because I'm the type of person that triple dips into the games, so now I only have to double dip, once for myself on PC and then once on the PlayStation for my girlfriend to play with me. Actually, on that note, which console do you think that you'll be playing on primarily once Wilds release?
I'm split between. I generally play more on PC, but I'm like a little split between PC or PS5 this time. But
my man,
with crossplay, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
be a jump.
I'm going to be on PS5. I mean, for me, like I spend so much time in the corner on my work computer that I need to go look at the other screen. I need to go sit over there and look at the other screen to kind of relax. So yeah, that's my plan. But who knows? I might be on PC as well, depending on if I want to have like a work account and a personal account, or if I want to just have it and just be like, off we go.
I have my PC hooked up to my living room TV, which is maybe like I'm sure my wife thinks it's an eyesore. But
my man.
Yeah, I don't have a PS5, so I'm gonna play on PC.
I don't blame you. A lot of people are probably going to be playing on PC, I imagine. So shout out to the PC gamers.
So I have a pretty big question for you guys, and this is actually going to be in regards to the Seikret. I'm sure you guys have kind of seen the debates all over Twitter, but obviously, and then for anyone that's tuning in for the first time, the Seikret is basically the evolution of the Tail Riders that we had in World, plus the Palamutes. They're basically going to be our mounted companion once we get into Monster Hunter Wilds. But with the Seikret, Monster Hunter Wilds has introduced the ability to freely move. We can pin things on the map, and the Seikret will go help us get to that point automatically. And we can do prep work like healing and sharpening and whatnot. But the community seems to be a little bit divided on this right now, with some arguing that the utility of the Seikret makes it like certain actions in healing, let me rephrase that. Some argue that the utility of the Seikret, with how we can actually prep these things or even do it in the middle of the hunt, like healing and sharpening, makes it a little bit too easy. Do you have any thoughts that you can share with us on that?
Yeah, I would think about it less about how it affects you in the middle of an actual fight and more of how much bigger the world is. So the environments are, I think, more than double the size of what they were in World. So the Seikret is super essential for getting around. Like the fact that it can like auto move you to a location, and like you can kind of focus on the other things that you're doing, maybe like in the environment or maybe what's in your pouch and your weapons, sharpening, healing. Those things will like those are things that you can manage as you're headed to the next location. So the team is really focused on like kind of keeping you focused on those things versus like sticking to menus or having to like completely stop what you're doing and heal or sharpen or things like that. So I would think about it in that way of like how it kind of like is a great quality of life feature to keep you like immersed in the world, immersed in the game, versus like having to kind of stop when the monster is moving to a different location. I think the Seikret is super, super useful. The verticality that it has is amazing. Like it can really take you up to like different locations. I love that it can kind of like auto track to the location because like everybody has in the past gotten lost in the ancient forest. This is such a huge help. And also like the way it controls is very unique. I kind of think of it as like, hey, like this is, it's like a wild beast. Like it has been tamed, but like it has like a mind of its own and it is very smart and useful. So like it kind of like auto moves on its own unless you actually like press I think it's the right trigger to make it like stop moving. And then you kind of have to like pull the reins back on it. So I love that it has like a very unique feel to it. It isn't just like, oh, this is a horse with wings or something, you know?
It kind of reminds me of Epona from Zelda. It kind of in
Oh,
that regard because
yeah.
Epona kind of keeps like auto moving, right? And then you can hold forward to speed it up, or you can use the carrots to like speed
No,
up.
you're
But you know,
right.
you can also make it stop, and that's one thing I actually really appreciated about well, the specifically the auto move function, because you know obviously during the demos we don't have that much time, so we want to try and like capitalize as much time as we can. But being
Go
able to
hunt
do
a
things,
monster, yeah.
yeah, exactly. But like being able to do things like go to the menus and like look through like the weapon controls and stuff like that, and like other things like changing the camera from like focus to like target camera and stuff like that. Obviously, that you know stuff like that you're gonna have done before, you know, or sorry, when the full game comes out, stuff like that you probably will have already had done when you first start the game. But like just stuff like that is like super huge and super convenient.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Joe summed it up really, really well. And, you know, it's that seamless experience. You know, you've got these vast expanses when you look at the Windward Plains. And, you know, if the monster flees, you're going to be chasing that on Seikret. Do you want to, you know, be forced to kind of sit there and sharpen while it gets further and further away? Or do you want to jump on your mount and pursue it while sharpening your weapon? And, you know, something that made me laugh, we saw in the debates, because we were looking at them, is someone went, do you remember back in the day when you could just go to a different zone and the monster couldn't follow you and you could sharpen and then go back in again? So, you know, it's interesting that when people look at convenience, or if it makes it easier, that, you know, it's not like it's a new thing that you can capitalize on. But I think it's a seamless game, and the scale of the game has increased dramatically. So this quality of life thing, I think you'll appreciate it. I think the amount of times that you're going to see people in a fight hop on their Seikret and start doing like 360s to sharpen their weapon isn't going to be a common practice. It's so good though. The amount of times when I'm pursuing a monster and I'm sharpening, it's a godsend. It keeps you in the hunt. It keeps you, as Joe said, in that experience. You're not like, right, gonna put the kettle on, sharpen my weapon. All right, let's go chase that monster. Then it keeps the action flowing.
Yeah.
But as the, oh, sorry, after you, Joe.
You know, I think friction is super important in games. Like, you should hit like some things that are like not always the most convenient.
Yeah.
I think the friction now comes from different areas, right? Like, you now have to deal with monster herds, which is, you know, that's something that you can't predict and is a little bit more challenging. So maybe you have like a pack of 3 Doshiguma that are kind of like getting in the way of your hunt, or maybe there's like it's an inclemency period. There's like thunder coming down, or sorry, lightning that's coming down, and that could like either hit you or it hits the monster. Those are things that like feel really dynamic and interesting in terms of like adding that additional friction to the experience. So you know, this again doesn't like the Seikret doesn't completely like solve these things. You're definitely still going to be sharpening in the middle of a hunt, like while you're not on it. I still do that even with Palamutes and Rise. Like, I don't always like hop on the back of the Palamute. So I think it's like, yeah, it's not like the team is just like, oh, we just need to make everything like we're gonna take out all of these like pain points for people. Like, I think there's like a balance there, right? And they're trying to like pick and choose which are the ones that are most important to them, and the ones that are you know, maybe in the past are not necessarily like we can move on from them, right? So yeah, sharpening, healing on the back of the Seikret, I think there's a balance to it of like, again, we have much bigger environments. If you just had to like walk around and just like like stop and heal, like that flow of the hunt of moving to the next area, of moving across these like huge expanses where there's just a lot of like open space between it. If you didn't have that ability, then like it would take away from the flow quite a bit. So I think it's a big additive part of it.
I think that's something that a lot of us kind of just forget too. Obviously, like, you know, we've had this iterated like multiple times and emphasized that like the main thing with Monster Hunter Wilds is the seamless gameplay. So I think for a lot of us that kind of falls through the cracks, that we specifically for this thing, because like, you know, you have a lot of Monster Hunter fans that are, I wouldn't want to say purists, but they're so used to like what the old world experience was of like going to zones, sharpening, and then doing that. I mean, obviously with zones, that already inherently breaks the gameplay flow, right? So now you're going from action to just prep work and then back and forth again. But I'm actually very happy that you guys like mentioned that, because then now it'll put that into perspective for a lot of people, that you guys want us to stay in the hunt. We're always
Mhm.
constantly in the action. And yes, there's going to be some down points. There's going to be some pain points that we still have to dive through, but they're just put in different boxes that flow a lot better with the overall gameplay. Like I never once felt like I was ever disengaged, especially during my time with the game. And I truly, truly, truly appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's fair because so far we've been like, no, listen, actually, this is how it is and stuff. But that's a position of privilege for us because obviously a lot of people that raise these comments or questions or even concerns may not have had the opportunity to play the game yet because you've had to be in Germany or at PAX or at TwitchCon. So looking in, that's a very different perspective to us that have been playing the game and have experienced it. So, we get the comments, we get why people are raising the comments. So please don't think we're like, well, actually, you're wrong, because it's speaking from experience of we have that privilege to have played it and experienced it and see how it feels when you're physically getting decked by 3 Doshiguma at once and things like that, and then Rey Dau comes in, so no, we get it, and it's good questions to ask. So thanks for giving us the opportunity to kind of answer that, and to the community the kind of the benefit of the DAO as well, rather than just going it's good questions to ask.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, since we were talking about quality of life, there's also something new that I'm very curious about, and I'm sure Phil and others as well. It's the quest system. Because when I was trying the build at Gamescom, we were not sure. So I think it's amazing that you now can just jump in. You eat, you prepare yourself, you go on your secrets, and then you just wander around, you see a cool monster, you're like, okay, I want to hunt that. And then after some time, or after a certain amount of damage done to the monster, we could see that the quest was starting. Could we have some more information on this? Because I could not really figure out when was the quest triggered, if it was after a certain amount of damage dealt, after a timer. Could you give us maybe some more infos about that?
Yeah, I believe it is a certain amount of damage dealt. So if you just hit it once, it won't necessarily start the quest. But say if you do a sneak attack or you hit a certain damage threshold, then it will start. And I think one of the reasons why that is because, like, say you might accidentally hit a monster and you didn't want to start that quest. You just want to like give it a poke of doom, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, what did I do? So, that's definitely intentional to make sure that those situations don't happen.
Now, that's gonna change a lot of things, I think, especially for speedruns, since the resets go really hard sometimes, and being able to start immediately the quest on a monster when you see it. I don't know exactly how it's gonna translate in the game, because I consider that I have not seen enough to decide that yet. But maybe it will avoid us to resets for spawns. Maybe, just maybe, it could be actually very exciting. I don't know what you think about it, Phil, but I'm very intrigued by the new quest system. That's very new for me, to just be able to just jump in like that.
See, as soon as I saw that it was one of those things where, like, once you've done a little bit of damage or a certain amount of damage to the monster, I was like, oh, I instantly thought Wild Hearts, because that's kind of how like it was in Wild Hearts. But I personally think it's awesome. I know for a lot of speedrunners it might be a little bit more difficult. Actually, on that note, is there more of a traditional type of like quest system that starts the timer right when you accept the quest? Or I don't know if that's something that you can reveal just yet, or kind of indulge us in.
Yeah, so you can get quests from Alma, and so the more kind of traditional format, or you can go out and have the kind of seamless dynamic approach where you're like, all right, gang, we're gonna go beat up some monsters and let's see what comes our way. So yeah, we can't delve too much further into that, but yeah, there is the kind of traditional quest pickup and out in the field style.
Amazing. Wow. Can't wait to play it again. The more we talk about it, the more I want to play it again. It's been a month now. That it's been a month, so I'm counting the days since Gamescom.
It has been 2 days.
It has been 2. Yeah, okay. Nice flex, Phil. Nice flex. All right. And he played it twice.
That's right. You played with you had your own session, right? And then you played with Fruitcake.
That's correct. Yeah. So I had the Gamescom in LA session. And then I also had TwitchCon with Fruitcake, and that was really, really fun.
Nice.
That was like the
Everybody
first time I got to play
accomplished.
multiplayer.
Nice. Yeah, I
That-
know.
yeah.
I think at PAX we had multiplayer. At Gamescom we had. I think we started with multiplayer, then we had to switch to single player. But yeah, it's having like the full multiplayer experience is a good way to like kind of see how the flow is going to be. So yeah, glad you're able to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was amazing. But I think multiplayer was really amazing for a lot of people, especially since it was for a lot of us, it gave us the opportunity to try Rey Dau. Because of course Rey Dau was the shiny brand new toy that we all had. And so we know that some people tried it, but what we don't know is if you guys actually tried it and if you managed to beat it.
No, go ahead. I think you.
Yeah,
well,
I've beaten Rey Dau in a 2-stack. So that was before Gamescom when I was practicing on the build, and it took about 5 attempts to do it with the 2 of us. But no, it's a fun challenge. It's a great monster. I love the sound design. How about you, Joe? What's your encounter with Rey Dau been like so far?
I haven't had a chance to beat it. I did attempt to solo it, and I think I got it down to like just the end of the hunt, but I actually ran out of time because I didn't do it just to fight Rey Dau. I took out Doshiguma and then I went for Rey Dau, and I just barely ran out of time. So I have to go back and get that. But it is such a cool monster. Like the sound effects, just like the design, like the
rail
everyone
gun.
calls it the rail gun.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's so cool, so cool. Jonno, I think you were mentioning before that like the area that it goes to, it's like its lair has like a special effect, right?
Yeah, so traditionally in Monster Hunter, when you've nearly got the monster defeated, it will go back to its nest, and that's another opportunity for you to wail on the monster and finish it off. But as we mentioned, like with Doshiguma, for example, when it's nearly been hunted, it goes into a super enraged state, repops its wounds, but gets more aggressive and dangerous. Rey Dau actually goes back to its nest. However, its nest is not as hunter friendly as you might think. So its nest is actually made of I think sort of like crystalline material that conducts lightning. So what that does is whenever Rey Dau does a thunder-based like lightning attack, its AoE gets a lot bigger.
Yeah.
Which means that you're on Rey Dau's home turf now. You're not on your kind of victory lap. You're gonna have to really work for this hunt against this apex of the Windward Plains. So even the nest and stuff like we've seen with like Doshiguma, you go back to its nest and it gets roided up. Rey Dau's actual physical location will try and cart you now when it's
You're in my home now.
So, yeah, so like even the format of kind of like, all right, we've nearly beat the monster. You can see the little skull. Let's wrap this up.
Nope.
Not necessarily always the case now. And I think once again that makes the hunts more dynamic because now when you go to like say Rey Dau's nest area, you're like, right, okay. It's kind of like Fatalis as well at the end of Iceborne. Have you got the horn breaks? You've got proof of a hero playing, but you still could get one shot by that spin-in flame attack and things like that. So you've got that, obviously not at that degree of danger all of the time like Fatalis was, but you've got that extra layer of challenge and to keep like the latter part of the hunt, keep you on your toes. So,
yeah, I agree.
It's really fun. Good shout, Joe.
A lot of people were actually dying or carding on when Rey Dau was going back to his nest, and that was very funny to see because it was completely for us it was completely unexpected. I don't know about you, Phil, but as Jonno said rightfully, well, when when monsters are going back to their nest, we're like, okay, yeah, we get it, it's fine. But actually, no.
Yeah. The dynamic changed.
See, I caught I was watching Miss 5000 Watts interview with the 2 of you, and I think Jonno I think it was Jonno that made the mention about that lair. And during my time at the TwitchCon demo while playing with Vanessa or with Fruitcake, we're like, all right, cool, we beat the Doshiguma, we're gonna go find the Rey Dau now. And the area that it spawned in was its nest, so like, oh crap. I almost ate the railgun like 3 times. Yeah, no, I absolutely love it.
And the thing is, it looks so beautiful as well.
It
You know,
does.
some
It does.
monsters will have like a more traditional nest, like like you've seen, like Doshaguma's got like a dirt mound kind of thing in a corner, whereas Rey Dau has this beautiful kind of like geode-like kind of area, and things like that. So when I first stepped into it, I was like, oh my goodness,
Yes.
you need to hit me up, your interior designer, because this looks lovely.
Yeah.
It was quite an experience, rather than just like, all right, it's a nest. I was like, whoa, this is really nice. And then then you got to dodge all the lightning running through the ground. So that's
And then you
always fun.
struggle. No, it was a beautiful surprise, I think, for all the players that tried the builds. I think all of us were like kids when we entered the lair, and we're like, wow, this is actually amazing. And as you mentioned earlier, the sound design of this monster is absolutely mind-blowing. It's chef's kiss, exactly. Like all of us, we all loved it. It sounds so unique, so different, and yet familiar compared to other monsters. I think, props to the sound designers, because really it was a fantastic experience from A to Z, this monster. Did you actually expect people to go for Rey Dau though? During the different conventions? Because because the feedback that I got before from Amaury, who's the French CM that I say hi to, who was really amazing, told us that the build that we had was actually not fit for Rey Dau, and that it might be extra challenging. So you're saying that you were expecting people to go for it, but then how did that cross your mind? Why didn't we have maybe like other type of builds or a quest focused on Rey Dau? Like, what were your expectations for the players in multiplayer?
I mean, talking specifically about Gamescom, I think when coming up with something that you're going to take to an event when you've got such a broad skill set of players and people with different degrees of familiarity, you want something that people can everyone can enjoy. So obviously we had like the single player quest for like that we kind of said, have you never played before, check this out. And then obviously you've got this kind of multiplayer quest, which is kind of the more traditional Monster Hunter experience. And we'd like to think we had monsters for all occasions there. You got Balahara, Chupacabra, Doshaguma, and Rey Dau. Everyone's going to try, existing Monster Hunter players are always going to pop for the biggest monster. We know that. But whether or not they were successful, that was the big question mark we had over our heads. I don't know. How was it at PAX, Joe?
Yeah, I think we had like 4 or 5 clears total. And it was kind of funny to watch this whole thing play out. Like, so basically, like, you're waiting in line and you can see all the screens. You can actually see the screen of like one of the stations where like a group is playing. And it kind of like started as like wildfire. Like one person just like one group tried to go for Rey Dau, they weren't successful, and then the like people waiting in line are seeing that and they're like, oh, I'm gonna give it a try. I'm gonna go for that. So it's interesting to see like a lot of the experienced groups. But Jonno says it right. I mean, again, it's not necessarily the target of the hunt. Same with the other monsters as well. The two kind of like experiences that we have that we've shown so far at the different shows that we've been at have really been focused about like, look, this is a new game. You don't necessarily want to throw you into the deep end, and imagine you're a new player, you go against Rey Dau, you get absolutely destroyed, and you're just like, I don't like this. That's not the experience we necessarily want the average player to have. So we definitely start with something that's a little bit more like, not necessarily introductory, but is like more of like kind of like a entry to mid-level hunt. And for those players who do want to go after something that's like a little bit more challenging, it's kind of like there in the the distance that you can go for. So that's been interesting to watch.
Well, thank you for giving us the opportunity to go after it, because honestly, we had a lot of fun trying to challenge it. It was really, really cool. We felt a bit masochistic at some point, but yeah.
On the comment about how many clears that there were, I think Kyle had told me that there were only 3 clears at TwitchCon. So nice. A lot of us. Yeah, that's actually pretty good. I think you guys know about Jal Bagel, one of our good friends, and he's a pretty amazing speedrunner. He got close twice. Really, really close. Yeah, so
playing solo.
No, I believe he was doing in his as a group. Yeah, because he was doing it with DJ Johnny, and then he did it with Buck Fuzzles on his second run.
Okay.
Yeah,
nice.
but Actually, on the note of like, obviously with the builds and the demos that you guys have catered or that you bring to these conventions and stuff like that, they're obviously catered a very specific way. To that note, Rey Dau is probably more for people that are looking for like an extremely huge challenge and stuff like that. But I also noticed that I know that Chatacabra was also in the build and Balahara, but it seems like a majority of people just after they did their Doshuguma, they went straight to Rey Dau. Did you actually see anyone go for Chatacabra or Balahar during your time at PAX and during Gamescom, or was it pretty much just Doshuguma and then let's go YOLO it over to Rey Dau?
Oh man, I think at PAX at least, yeah, definitely majority of the time you saw people going after Rey Dau. I think I did see a couple of people go after Balahara, and then Chatacabra was also available in the separate story quest that's also been at our shows. So he's also there to be beat up on, but he doesn't need any more like bullying. Okay, like he's Chatacabra needs to be left alone in peace to go and
or Chatacabra.
Yeah.
All the weapons were tested on him. It's so sad.
The poor thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what I noticed as well is Balahara was quite aggressive. Balahara would come and find you, especially if you're in like the dune kind of area, and you get to see a really cool turf war as well. And then obviously you got like the whirlpool that Joe mentioned earlier, or the sand whirlpool as such. And yeah, so I normally see people kind of fighting Dosha Aguma, and then they'd kind of be like, right, that monster came and had a pop at us earlier. Let's go get some revenge. But I think as well, what was interesting about Rey Dau is obviously when the inclemency period came in during the build, Rey Dau, if you were in a certain area, would probably come and interfere with your fight. So people like this big flashy monster, figuratively and literally, would come and cause trouble, and you'd be like, and it's that natural inquisitiveness, that curiosity of we should go find that one next. So that was really fun to see people discover this monster, and they didn't know its attacks, they didn't know how it behaved, what it would do to them. So it was really fun to see hunters of varying experience take on something that was entirely alien to them.
Really the feeling of, oh wow, I don't know what this is, but it looks cool, let's hunt it. It's exactly like the average Monster Hunter experience, in my opinion. It's like, you don't know what it is the first time you play it, but it looks cool, let's go see it. It might like completely destroy us, but we'll figure it out. No, it was really amazing. Really, really amazing.
So I'd like to put a small shift in the topic here, but obviously you guys are very well versed with the Monster Hunter community. You guys see the different aspects, the different ways that people like to enjoy the game. What are your general thoughts about the speedrunning scene and whatnot, and how much interaction do you guys have with like the speedrunners themselves with throughout the Monster Hunter series?
General thought is amazement. You guys do incredible stuff. Like when we see all these highlights that are like you took out a monster in like 2 minutes or whatever. Yeah, honestly incredible. Like the absolute mastery of the game, mastery of the hunts, and the monster patterns and things like that of your weapon. It's super, super impressive. I've had a chance to talk to a couple people in the community, and yeah, honestly, everybody in the speedrunning community does amazing work. So yeah, it's just general amazement. And we don't necessarily like have like an official like Capcom Monster Hunter like speedrunning like mechanic or anything like that. But we have like done things in the past where we've had, I believe at like Festa, this was before my time, but I think it was in Boston where we did have like a speedrunning tournament on stage, which was pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, obviously we love this stuff. We love to see it. We love like this like specific passion for the game. I love speedrunning in general, like outside of Monster Hunter too. I love watching like AGDQ and SGDQ every year. So honestly, it's amazing stuff. But what do you think, Jonno?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's such a demonstration of honing your art and your passion, and kind of demonstrate it. Like you mentioned, Jal, like Jal does is it like the fresh to like Xenojiva runs and things like that?
Yeah.
Which is really cool to see. And yeah, and just the perfection you have to have, and the in-depth knowledge of monsters, the game mechanics, and things like that. So it's great to see people funnel their passion that way. To basically push themselves. It's a lot like working out at the gym. You're only, I know you compete against each other, but your main opponent or your main adversaries yourself. You're trying to better yourself every time you go in there. One more rep or a couple more seconds, that kind of thing. So I really respect the dedication it takes to master a craft to that degree, and to kind of demonstrate it in Monster Hunter. It's very cool to see. Especially because, like, whilst I like to think I'm right at the game, I'm not like speedrunner.
Same.
Do you feel like it makes you like look at the game in like a different light in that regard?
I think it's interesting to see how different people take on the game and what they see as their challenge. So for me, it's like getting the weapons I want, beating the monsters I want without carting and things like that. But then to see how the game kind of gives people the opportunity to express their skill in their own way. I don't know, how do you see it, Joe, in that regard?
I think it's the same way as well. I mean, I tend to watch a lot of speedrunning videos, or like look at builds that people are using for speedrunning to see like how maybe I can take some inspiration to optimize my own build. But then I also realized that like some of these builds are very offensive focused, and if I get hit a lot, so that maybe is not like the best route for me. So that's always an interesting balance. But it's fun to like look at those builds and like to see like what a player can do when they've taken like the game to this level, right? Like I think that's a testament to Monster Hunter too, of like the game like allows you to do this. Like if you get this good, like this is where you can get to.
And some of those builds are actually very, very specific. So you might like, I don't know about others, but I'm speaking for me and for some other friends that do speedruns. Even when we're hosting open lobbies, we are not going to use the sets and the builds that we're building for speedruns, because it just does not make sense and it's just not working. Like, you're not gonna, unless you're fully coordinated and you have a script that, is, that your build is adapted to your script, I would not recommend to anyone to just, use some speedrunning builds for casual quests, because you're not gonna have a fun time. You'd better stick with like less try hard stuff, but because you're not gonna enjoy the hunts if you don't do that.
Go heroics, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's oh my god, yeah. Like the amount of times I've seen in open lobbies, that's actually very funny. Players that pick a heroic set, but in a 4-player quest that are completely not coordinated. It's always very fun, very, very fun to see.
I think speedrunning is also like one of the ways that Monster Hunter has helped become more popular and more like kind of mainstream, because it's kind of like in a sport, like when you see like an incredible like feat of strength, or like some sort of like milestone that's hit, like somebody does something like really crazy, and you start seeing these headlines of like someone doing something. So like Monster Hunter, for instance, it's like somebody slayed the hardest monster in whatever amount of time. Like when you see that, and then people watch the videos and they're just like, how is this like even possible? Like, or like an Elden Ring or something, like somebody does like a no-hit run or something like that.
Yeah.
Those things are like, they help like share the series and the games with more people, because they see that and then it's like, whoa, like how's that even possible? Like, did somebody really do that? So yeah, honestly, we love it. You guys like just really do amazing stuff.
Do you think speedruns also, I don't know, I'm just speculating, but does it help sometimes the developers to understand the limits of their own game and to maybe push something forwards or improve things? Does it have such an impact? Or can it have such an impact, in your opinion?
Yeah, I don't know if we can really comment on like how the developers might see that and then tune things, because that is like a pretty specific design question. But it is like something that we share with them and we look at, and obviously like we try to share as much as possible that we see. So that I'm sure that is part of it. But yeah, in terms of like specific, like taking things that they've seen from speedrunning and then having that influence design, I don't think we can talk about too much.
Because I completely understand that you cannot talk about it. It's just that I'm just gonna quote an example that made me wonder about that. In Wilds, you can now cancel Helmbreakers, and for longsword speedruns, it's actually very, very, very useful. In case the monster does something that is not in our script, now we have the freedom to just cancel and not lose a huge amount of damage. So yeah, those are the little adjustments that made me wonder, like, oh, why did they think about that? How? So I was maybe hoping that it was due to speedruns, but if it's not, it's also fine.
Yeah, we'll have to ask the team next time they're so we can chat with them. But right now they're very very busy for TGS. So
yeah, we're excited about that. We're super excited about that.
But talking about the devs though a little bit, it was so fun to see. They love the game. You've seen them on stage playing in all their different ways, like Tokuda-san breaking down like as many weapons as possible, to like showing his extensive knowledge. You've got Fujioka-san, who's like, Lance is a weapon that doesn't get as much attention as others, and this man is a surgeon with it, doing really cool things. Obviously, Ryozo-san is the Lord of Hammers and things like that. And obviously with Sunbreak, we actually had the developer challenges where they were doing like naked runs against like super endgame challenger monsters, and they shared how many turns it took them. They showed the highlights and things. So, I think the community can rest assured that, the devs play the heck out of the games. They love them, and that knowledge and experience is, something we all get to benefit from. But no, it's a ton of fun seeing that.
So I know that Joe touched based on this a little bit earlier ago about how we had like the speedrunning tournament in Boston. I believe that was like Monster Hunter Festa. We have a lot of people asking for events like that, which is actually part of the reason why we were inspired to do something called I don't know if you guys remember, but we started something called the card game series, where we started doing like Monster Hunter tournaments and stuff like that for speedrunning. Do you think that we might see any events in the near future, whether it be like, just Monster Hunter or Capcom in general, related in general, or if it might be Monster Hunter Wilds focused?
Yeah, I mean, we love, like we've talked about with PAX and Gamescom, and TwitchCon, we love the chances to get the community together. I think we see a ton of value in it, and it is something that is super important to us. We love being together with the community in person. We can't comment on any like future events that might happen like after launch or anything like that, because the team is really focused on what we've got in front of us right now. But yeah, it is super important to us, and community again is very very important. So hopefully we can talk a little bit more about what's in store for the future at a later time.
Absolutely. And I know that this might be a little bit harder of a question to truly or to answer in full, but like, especially for smaller groups like us, where we're doing things like more community side, we're bringing like, community members and content creators to kind of like do these like tournaments and stuff like that, where they're very like esports focused. Does Capcom have any interest in potentially like, doing something official with us and stuff like that, or even like supporting us in any way in that regard?
Yeah, take this one, John.
Yeah, I mean, I think esports is an interesting one, because I think it's hard for a company to go, right, this is an esport now. It's kind of like a community gets behind it and elevates a certain part of a game or a game to kind of that status. I mean, it's kind of like a never say never thing, but it's like, maybe in Wilds that a huge scene comes up behind it or something like that. But yeah, it's always kind of like there's potential, but it's not like a set in stone thing or something that I think you can evoke when it comes to like competitive X or Y kind of thing. It's kind of like the balls in the kind of community court and how many people kind of flock around it, I guess.
Yeah, and it's also like a little balance with us, because it is very community driven, and for us to come in and be like, this is an official Capcom thing now, it's like oh, big bad corporate overlord now like owns this thing that you guys made. Like, we obviously like want to be very respectful and careful of that sort of thing too.
Right. No, absolutely.
I think it could be interesting though, to have something that would be official, especially for the rules and enforcing that I mean, what's interesting about having an official competition is that, of course, the controls of anyone that does not respect the rules can be more, strong and enforced. And I think it would, I mean, I don't know, I'm being maybe the devil's advocate right now, or a question that is on top of my head is how will this influence the speedrunning community when it comes to visibility, and how will it influence also speedrunning as a thing, since you have a lot of players who run on console and who absolutely refuse using mods. because not everyone has access to mods. Not everyone wants to use mods either. So I guess if Capcom is owning competition, it will make an official decision on saying, okay, so now if you want to compete officially, then you have to abide to those rules, and we make the rules. So no more mods or questions like this, I think, are worth asking to ourselves in the near future.
Yeah, I think when you look at speedrunning, we see speedrunning, as Joe said, Joe enjoys speedruns. I like watching speedruns too. Like it's community cultivated. They decide the categories, you get like different rule sets and things like that. And it's very organic and natural. And as Joe said, it's owned and ran by the community, not like a publisher or a developer who's like, no, this is the right way to speedrun it, because it's the community that figure out what's a fun speedrun, what's a challenge run. You see it with like Resident Evil and stuff like Resi 4 and things like that. So I think it being owned by the community space is ultimately like a really cool thing. I'm not saying it's bad if a developer or a publisher is running it, but it seems something that was curated by the community and has been championed by the community, not just in Monster Hunter, but across tons of different games, if you're into your Souls and things like that as well. So, I think there's a certain kind of beauty in that. It's the community. They've decided these are the rules. This is the code of honor. This is how we register things. This is where we submit our runs, and this is how we do it. And that way as well, it keeps it in your control. But yeah, it's definitely a good conversation to have, and there's definitely kind of arguments to be had on both sides of the coin of the benefits and the downsides of who decides what is a speed run and how you speed run, and is it glitchless, is it can you use these weapons, or are these things banned because they're viewed as OP and things like that. But no, it's definitely, there's no right or wrong answer, basically, is what I'm getting to.
Well, thank you for your answer. It's not an easy question to ask or to answer, so thank you very much.
I can actually very much appreciate that. Like, you guys kind of acknowledge it, that it's something that we as creators kind of curate ourselves. So it gives us a lot more freedom to kind of, set these rules, set these formats, and experiment with a lot more. I mean, as much as it would be cool to have like an official format and whatnot to kind of go off of, I think it definitely does keep it a little bit more interesting with people approaching speedrunning, or even like tournaments and stuff like that, in multiple different ways.
Yeah, and I think what Joe said that really as well hit the nail on the head is, some people who don't play Monster Hunter, for example, will see a speedrunning video and be like, that combat looks so cool, and go and try out the game as well. And it's really community driven, right? Like, you see flashy moves, dodging the monster, not taking hits or recovering really well. And I think that's something that, is much trickier to cook up from a kind of corporate angle, right? Because what you see is genuine hard work, people wanting to share what they love. And yeah, I think that's a cool touch. Anything else on that, Joe, on your side, or?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again. I have another question that I would like to ask on the behalf of a lot of European content creators. They wanted to ask about if we can expect a Europe Capcom creators program anytime soon or in the future, if that's something that, a topic that is on the table sometimes. What about it?
It's a good question, because obviously, the Capcom creators in North America is really cool, and it's great to see, and it's awesome to see people proud to represent and and show off Capcom goodness. It's a conversation we've had our side, but one thing we were acutely aware of is obviously Europe alone has many languages, and it might be unfair to just be like, right, well, English it is everybody kind of thing, because we think if we're going to give that service to Europe, we want it to be the best it can be. Spanish creators should have Spanish, Polish, French, German, etc. But obviously with that, the more languages, the cost goes up exponentially, and the time investment required from staff as well. And it's, would we actually provide a better service that way? And instead of what we've done is we've got a load of new regional community managers. So we have a dedicated, for Monster Hunter, French, German, Polish, Spanish, Italian, and Middle Eastern community manager.
All amazing.
Yeah, they're awesome, and that means that what we can do is, whilst we don't have a centralized, really cool hub like the Capcom creators for like NA has, we can go on this more individual, and you can still do that individual based. Like Joe's awesome. Please, US creators, Joe's awesome. Please go. If I'm pointed in the right direction, he could be anywhere right now. You reach out to him. But yeah, like all of the EMEA community managers. Our DMs are open. We are very approachable. Please reach out to us. So yeah, we do the more direct outreach because we feel that way we can still engage and we can do it in a respectful manner. Because I'm very privileged that I'm English, so English is my first language, and a lot of the world speaks English. However, I don't want to have to go to like an Italian creator and be like, "All right, mate, want some Monster Hunter?" And he's like, "I don't speak English." Like so. I think we're incredibly lucky to have these community managers that can do meaningful, decent engagement in their native languages and show that kind of respect to creators. So that's kind of why, but never say never. But at the minute, that kind of individual approach is there. To build up those relationships and give each region where we have a community presence directly that kind of respect and attention that they deserve. Obviously, those that don't have a direct community manager, like we still love you as well, but there can really be so many of us. But feel free to reach out. But yeah, Joe, Capcom creators as a NA thing. So anything your side?
Yeah, I think it's a great program. I mean, like you mentioned, I think it's a lot of it is like resource driven, right? Of like being able to do that for Europe with so many of the languages is quite a challenge. As for US, like everybody's generally English speaking, so we have the ability to like kind of be able to cast a wider net in terms of like how many people that we can have in the program. But at the same time, it is also like it is quite a challenge to have such a big program. So like we do have to sometimes like kind of like feather how many people we bring in. So sometimes like the applications will be closed because we just can't like manage to have that many people in it, and also to review them as well because our team, like it is not just managed by like my team, but there's quite a few people that do work on that within the creators program. So it is quite an undertaking to have that many people, and it is yeah, like as Jonno mentioned, it's quite a challenge. Like, but at the same time, like I love having like the one-on-one interactions with a lot of creators. I don't necessarily need to do everything through the creators program, and most of the time I am talking with people nightside like yourself, who is already in the program. So yeah, I love like just talking to people. Like again, my DMs are also open, so yeah, there's plenty of creators in both in and out of the program that I love to chat with all the time. So yeah, reach out anytime, regardless of whether you're in the program or not.
Yeah, and like I'd say Joe explains it perfectly. And for the European creators, I know it's really cool to look over and see creators that are repping, official Capcom creator and things like that, because it's just really snazzy. And as Joe said, it's a great program. But we see you in the the EMEA community. We appreciate you, and we'll make sure that you have those opportunities and opportunities in our region as well. Like, so we still love you in our own different way. But and it's, as Joe said, it's looking at what's right for the right region and right creators rather than just kind of going templating it over everyone, because we want to give that meaningful engagement. And as Joe said, they've got the creators and the personal touch, and over here we've got regional personal touch as well. But no, it's a good question. And I can see why some creators in Europe and EMEA might be like, "Oh man, I'd love to have be part of that." And
we just want to be part of the cool kids.
Yeah,
we just want to be part of the cool kids.
You guys are already cool
at some point,
you guys are cool. There's no love lost. Like I think with Jonno and the team have done amazing work in making sure that it doesn't feel like there's like a huge gap between like the creator experience. And again, it is what is best fit for each region. The US is so big and like we're pretty like disparate, I guess. Like East Coast and West Coast are pretty like far split apart. So that's what we feel like is ultimately best for the US, but it may not necessarily be like something that can just be like a approach that's copy pasted to like all the different regions in Europe. So we try to do what's best for each region, but again, never say never. I think we're always constantly evaluating the situation, and things could change in the future. You never know, but that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and say to wrap that bit up. Any creators, reach out to us. We're here for you as well. And build a personal relationship with us is like in a working way. Obviously, that you don't have to take me out for a picnic or take Joe out for like lunch or something. Just reach out to us. We're on X. You can reach out to us. It's what we're here for. You can ask for a game code. You can be like, oh, I'm interested when Wilds comes out and things like that. It's what we're here for. Please don't be shy. We'll get back to you unless it's like the weekend or something. So
yeah,
Real
sometimes
talk.
we get like a little inundated with messages from time to time, or like real life stuff too. But we'll try our best to get back to you.
Real talk. I was about to say on the comment about the picnic. I totally take you guys out for some like Korean barbecue or something.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, I had the chance to do that with Yuri and Socks for like a Capcom dinner one time, and I actually was able to kind of cook for them too. It was kind of fun.
Oh, amazing.
We should
Spicy Angus.
yeah.
We have to introduce you to spicy Angus.
Oh.
We should have a Monster Hunter Day. We were talking about that with Phil. We should have one day per year where we don't have to work and we can just gather the whole community around some barbecue or whatever and just play
global
Monster
holiday.
Hunter. A global holiday just for Monster Hunter. That would actually be cool. That would actually be really cool.
We need to make it happen.
Please do it.
Who do we convince?
Please do it.
Alrighties, and that should pretty much wrap up this podcast. I think we asked all the questions that we were very curious about, and thanks again to both of you for taking our invite and graciously accepting and taking the time out of your day to answer us. I know that Joe, you're getting your work day started, and Jonno, your work day has already ended. You're probably ready to go relax and chill for a bit. But both me and Nix, we truly appreciate your guys' time. Yeah. Any closing thoughts for the podcast before we wrap up here?
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having us. Yeah, we really appreciate it. I think we're in contact quite a bit, so we always appreciate like being able to chat with you guys, and obviously like all the love and support for Monster Hunter. It's like your guys' efforts and your passion for this series is what brings us here today. So only other thing I probably should do like my job and like plug what we've got going on this week. So
yes, absolutely.
TGS, we have a special program live stream happening. I forget the exact time, but it is on the 26th.
5 a.m. for me.
No, that's on Friday. So we have the special program, right, on 26th.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was thinking about our live stream.
Yes. You jumped too far ahead.
Okay,
we do, yes.
3 p.m. BST, that one?
Yes. I think it's 3 p.m. BST, 7 a.m. PST. PDT,
well worth getting up for. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we got the TGS show, and then we have another live stream that is happening at a interesting time, which is Friday 9 p.m. Pacific and Saturday 5 a.m. BST.
This week.
So yes, that is this week. That is going to be the debut of Scarlet Force gameplay for the very first time live from the TGS stage.
We're gonna watch that.
Yeah, it's gonna be good stuff, but it will be late night and early morning for anybody watching. But the dev team will be out there. They'll be showing some fresh gameplay, never before seen. So there should be some surprises, some cool stuff.
So exciting!
And,
Next, I think we have to go to Tokyo now.
We have to. Yeah, we have to. I think it's official. Let's go.
The stream itself from the team will all be in Japanese, but Jonno and I have like kind of prepared basically like a co-stream that we'll be able to like follow along in English, explain what's going on. So hopefully not too much will be lost in translation, but we'll do our best. So hopefully you guys tune in and have fun.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's an exciting week. I'm really looking forward to seeing what the team cook up in the Scarlet Forest. But once again, to kind of follow on from Joe, thank you both for having us. It's a privilege to be here, and once again, a shout out to the Monster Hunter community as well. We love your excitement, your speculation, your feedback, and everything in between. And thank you for always being constructive. That allows us to be as engaged as we are with you and to share your feedback directly with the team as well. It's always an awesome time to be a hunter. But great time. Really excited for Wilds. Really excited for you all to experience it in 2025. And for those of you that have been lucky enough to attend the events it's been at, Yeah, I hope you've had a great time. But no, thank you so much for having us, and I guess we'll see you in the hunt.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you. I think Phil and I are both very humbled that we got the opportunity to ask you all of these questions. And I hope you did not mind us being maybe a bit too curious sometimes, but it comes from a place of, you know, passion and genuine curiosity. But
How
thank
dare
you so
we
much.
ask that this is the best version of Sword and Shield?
No, it was really a pleasure to have you with us today. And yeah, Phil, do you want to add anything before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it.
We're good.
My curiosity is satiated. I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of viewers will also be satiated, and you know, we're very much looking forward to
Play the
anything
game.
else that we haven't. Yeah, that's
We
good.
want to play the
But
game
we're looking forward to all the news that that's coming in store. So everyone that's watching this podcast, don't miss it. Alrighties, we'll end it here. Thank you again to Jonno, for taking the time to hang out with us here, and Nix as well for being my co-host. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks so much, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.